G7 leaders to press Donald Trump in Davos to back security guarantees for Ukraine. Zelenskyy Graham discussed sanctions with major impact on Russia and how Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad see urban combat Russian drone crews eliminated. The latest news next. Next week, Kiev's allies from the Group of Seven are set to meet with US President Donald Trump in Davos to secure his personal backing for security guarantees for Ukraine following a ceasefire, according to the Financial Times. Leaders of Italy, Germany, France, Canada, and the United Kingdom, as well as the head of the European Commission, are expected to take part in a planned leaders' meeting with US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy at the World Economic Forum in Davos next week, according to four officials familiar with the plans. Officials are still negotiating the details of the meeting, which is expected to take place on January 21st and could also include other leaders from the so-called Coalition of the Willing. National security advisors from the coalition are also planning to hold a separate meeting. According to Bloomberg, leaders in Davos intend to secure Trump's approval for agreements reached in Paris last week that are viewed as critical to preventing a renewed war. Those talks involved the coalition of the Resolute, including Trump's special envoy for Ukraine and senior European defense commanders. The leaders of Italy, Germany, France, Canada, and the United Kingdom are seeking Trump's personal backing for security guarantees for Ukraine, the report says. At the same time, European officials remain concerned about the scale of Trump's personal commitment to Ukraine in the event of a peace deal with Russia. Those concerns are fueled by several incidents over the past year in which he made sharply pro-Russian remarks about the war. One European official involved in the talks said that without the United States, such plans would not be viable, noting that it remains unclear what Trump ultimately believes, particularly in the context of discussions between Britain and France on deploying troops to Ukraine after a ceasefire. The report adds that the presence of 6 G7 leaders, along with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, would mark a record level of G7 representation at the Davos Forum. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy had talks on Monday, January 13th, with US Senators Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal. The discussions focused on anti-Russia sanctions, security guarantees, and other key issues, according to a post by the head of state. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy said there are many factors that are making Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin and consequently Russia as a whole significantly weaker. He stressed the importance of maximizing all possible forms of pressure to force Russia to end the war.
We discussed the current status of the Senator's sanctions bill, which could have a significant impact on Russia's position and on everyone who is helping it in this war.
Zelenskyy also briefed the senators on Russia's combined attacks against Ukraine's energy infrastructure.
These are hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles every day, deliberately launched during this extremely cold winter. That is why air defense missiles are our top priority, and we are counting on the support of our partners.
In addition, the president informed US lawmakers about the progress of Ukrainians' contacts with representatives of the administration of US President Donald Trump. According to Zelenskyy, the sides are already very close to finalizing the relevant documents.
I am grateful to the senators for their stance on the importance of security guarantees and for their continued bipartisan support in the US Congress. Everyone remembers what the Budapest Memorandum was, and no one wants a repeat of that.
Zelenskyy described the talks as constructive and said that the sides agreed to continue the dialogue and discuss the issues further during an in-person meeting in the near future. He concluded, "Thank you for the assistance and bipartisan support." Estonia calls for the governments of European Union countries to make every possible effort to finance Ukraine. Budgetary problems faced by some states should not stand in the way, according to an interview with Estonian Finance Minister Jürgen Ligi given to Bloomberg. There should be no fiscal limits if questions are existential for liberal democracy and human lives, he said. The outlet noted that Europe is increasingly bearing the burden of financing Ukraine after Donald Trump returned to the presidency of the United States. The situation has created strains for a number of countries that are trying to keep budget deficits under control. Lygi said he hopes that the EU will eventually find the courage to use Russia's frozen assets, as otherwise the unity of allies will face serious tests.
The biggest challenge at the moment is the breaking down of unity of allies, and I think we need to face that, including inside Europe.
The outlet also noted that Lygi's position is significant given his tough reputation as a fiscal hawk. During the 2008 recession, he pushed through very painful austerity measures in Estonia. Now, as the country's finance minister, Lygi has forced Estonia to rapidly increase defense spending.
Europe needs to continue funding Ukraine if the US cuts itself off from allies. There are others who will support other liberal democracies because the funding is not sufficient.
Meanwhile, European Union countries, including Germany, the Netherlands and France, are arguing over the use of 90 billion euros for Ukraine. The main dispute centers on whether Kiev should be allowed to spend these funds on weapons from the US. This could potentially affect Ukrainians' ability to quickly obtain the weapons it needs. At the same time, the European Union is currently working on the final adoption of the legal framework required to provide Ukraine with the promised 90 billion euros loan over the next 2 years. Kiev could receive the first tranche in the second quarter of 2026. Back in December 2025, during the summit in Brussels, EU member state leaders agreed to allocate 90 billion euros in support for Ukraine in 2026 to 2027. In practice, this is a concessional loan that Ukraine would repay only if Russia pays reparations for the invasion. It also replaces a planned 140 billion euros loan that was to be provided to Ukraine using Russia's frozen assets in Europe. Ukrainian forces in the area of responsibility of the Shid group of troops are holding positions in the Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad agglomeration. Over the past 24 hours, they repelled 57 assaults, inflicting significant losses on the Russian forces. Spokesperson of the Shid Operational Command, Grigory Shapoval, said this in a commentary by Ukraine. In particular, in the Pokrovsk direction, Ukrainian forces repelled 26 assault attempts by Russian troops in the areas of the settlements of Myrnohrad, Pokrovsk, Zapovidne, Rodinske, Kotline, Udachne, Molodetske, Filia, and Kucherev Yar. Over the past day, preliminary data indicates that 100 Russian personnel were neutralized, in the direction of whom 66 were enemy irrecoverable losses. Additional 45 drones, 12 vehicles, and 10 units of specialized equipment were destroyed. Directly in Pokrovsk itself, search and assault operations and elimination of the enemy in urban areas are ongoing. Ukrainian forces hold the northern part of the city. In Myrnohrad, Russian forces are being eliminated on the outskirts of the city.
To contain the enemy, the city's defense has been reinforced with additional forces and resources. Logistics remain complicated. Measures are being taken to expand logistical corridors to Myrnohrad to strengthen our capabilities.
Overall, in the area of responsibility of the Shid group of troops over the past day, the Russian forces lost 365 personnel. The Ukrainian armed forces are paying particular attention to destroying Russian drone operators. 39 enemy UAV crews were neutralized in a single day. We are eliminating Russian invaders. Combat operations continue, the spokesperson summarized. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine and Ukrainian army, like and subscribe.